When you were 10, a summer felt like a lifetime. Now you blink, and it's Christmas again. Why does time speed up as we get older? And is there anything we can do to slow it down? I used to think it was just me, that maybe I was getting busier, or lazier, or both. But then I started talking to other people my age, and they all said the same thing. The years are flying by, and I don't know where they went. The strange part? It's not just a feeling. Science says there's a real reason why our sense of time changes, and it's not the number of candles on your cake. Today, I'm going to share exactly why aging makes life feel faster, and 5 simple ways to stretch time so your days feel richer, slower, and more satisfying. And no, it doesn't involve moving to a tropical island or quitting your job. In fact, one of these tips is so simple you can start it today, and by next week you might swear the days feel longer. So, if you're tired of watching the years rush by, stick with me, because slowing them down might be easier than you think. The strange math of time. When I was 5, a year felt like forever. Said my neighbor Alan, now 84. Now, it feels like I'm renewing my driver's license every other week. It turns out there's a simple and slightly depressing explanation for this. Proportion. When you were 10, a single year was 10% of your entire life. Now, at 70, it's less than 1.5%. Your brain compares each new year to the total you've already lived, so they feel smaller and smaller in proportion. But here's the twist, that's only part of the story. The real culprit is how your brain measures time. Not in minutes or hours, but in memories. When you're young, almost everything is new. Your first bike ride, first job, first kiss. Your brain is constantly filing away vivid firsts, making those years feel full and stretched. As we age, life becomes more routine. The days start to look alike, so your brain bundles them together, like flipping through a photo album with fewer pictures. This is why a single week on vacation can feel longer than a month at home. Novelty packs more memories into your brain's time log. So yes, part of why time feels faster is basic math. But the bigger part? We stop filling our days with enough newness for our brain to notice. And the good news? You can change that without turning your life upside down, which is exactly where we're headed next. The role of novelty. You want to slow down time. Give your brain something to remember, said Dr. Chen, a neuroscientist I spoke with while researching this. Your brain is like a scrapbooker. It marks time by how many unique, memorable pages it can add. Novelty forces your mind to pay attention, laying down richer memories and stretching your sense of time. Think back to your first year at a new school or job. Every hallway, every face, every challenge was unfamiliar, and that year felt long. Compare that to last year, when maybe you saw the same streets, the same people, the same routines over and over. Those months blur together in your memory, making the year feel like it slipped away. Neuroscience research from Duke University confirms that novel experiences activate more areas of the brain, forming denser memory networks. That density is what makes time feel slower in hindsight. Here's the catch. As we get older, novelty often shrinks. We stick to the same restaurants, the same walking route, the same television shows. Comfort is nice, but it's also a time accelerator. The solution? Sprinkle small doses of novelty into your regular life. It doesn't have to be skydiving or moving across the country. It can be as simple as taking a different route to the store, trying a new recipe, or joining a club you've never considered. Because the more firsts you give yourself, the more your days expand, and the slower they'll feel when you look back. The routine trap. I swear, Monday comes around every 3 days now, joked my friend Lillian, 79. She's not wrong, and routine is a big reason why. Routines are efficient. They help us get things done without thinking too hard. The problem? They also put your brain on autopilot, which is the enemy of memorable time. When days follow the same predictable script, wake up, Coffee, same breakfast, same route, same television programs. Your brain stops noticing the details. It records fewer unique memories, and in hindsight, those days blur together. That blur feels like time moving faster. Think of it like reading a book where every page says the same sentence. You turn the pages quickly because nothing new happens. In life, that's exactly what a rigid, unchanging routine does. It makes time feel shorter. This doesn't mean you need to throw out all the structure. In fact, routines can be comforting, especially in later life. But if you want to slow down your perception of time, you have to disrupt them just enough to make your brain wake up and pay attention. Swap breakfast for something you've never made before. Rearrange the furniture in your living room. Call someone you haven't spoken to in years. Tiny changes keep your brain alert, your memory sharper, and your days feeling more distinct. Because the goal isn't to erase your routine, it's to poke enough little holes in it so that light, color, and variety can slip in. Micro-adventures to stretch time. I thought an adventure had to mean getting on a plane, said Carol. 82. Turns out, I can have one without leaving my neighborhood. Big life changes and expensive trips aren't the only way to bring novelty into your life. In fact, science says that small, regular, micro-adventures can have just as much impact on how you experience time. A micro-adventure is simply doing something outside your normal pattern, something that wakes up your senses, makes you notice details, and creates a memory worth keeping. It could be taking a new walking route and paying attention to the houses you've never really looked at, trying a completely unfamiliar food, visiting a local museum, even watching a sunrise from a different spot. The trick is to make these moments intentional. When you step into a fresh environment, your brain immediately starts working harder to process new sights, smells, and sounds. That extra processing lays down more memory anchors, which stretch your perception of time. Carol started by inviting her neighbor to join her for mystery lunch once a week, picking a restaurant they'd never tried before. Suddenly, my weeks felt fuller, she said. I was looking forward to something new and remembering it afterward. You don't have to climb mountains or fly across oceans. Just break the pattern enough to make your brain say, "This day matters." Because when you fill your life with more "this day matters" moments, the years stop rushing past quite so fast. The mindful memory trick. I can drink a cup of tea and not even taste it, admitted Ruth, 81. My mind's already on the next thing. One of the sneakiest ways time slips by is when we live in the future instead of the moment. Our brains rush ahead to the next task, the next errand, the next appointment, and in doing so, they barely register what's happening right now. Mindfulness is the antidote. It's not about sitting cross-legged on a mountaintop for hours, unless you want to. It's about fully noticing the small things in front of you. When you slow down and pay attention to the smell of fresh coffee, the way sunlight falls on the kitchen table, the sound of your friend's laughter, your brain records richer details. Those details become memory markers. And the more markers you have, the longer and fuller that moment feels in hindsight. In a study from Harvard University, participants who practiced mindfulness reported a greater sense of time, satisfaction, and recall. In other words, they felt like their days were more meaningful and slower. Ruth began a simple practice. Once a day, she pauses and names 5 things she can see, hear, and feel in that moment. It's like I'm pressing a record on life, she said. Because slowing time isn't just about adding new experiences, it's about truly being there for the ones you already have. Future memories in the making. Half the joy of my last vacation was counting down the days to it, laughed Martin, 78. There's a hidden way to stretch your experience of time, not just living the moment, but anticipating it. Psychologists call this the anticipation effect. And it works because your brain experiences pleasure both when something happens and when you imagine it happening. When you plan something to look forward to, whether it's a trip, a dinner with friends, or even a hobby project, you create extra mental time around the event. Instead of one weekend getaway, you get weeks of little bursts of excitement as you picture it. Research from the University of Surrey found that people who anticipate positive events experience higher levels of happiness and well-being, sometimes even more than during the event itself. And when you spread those moments throughout the year, you give your brain regular markers that make time feel richer and more memorable. Martin now schedules anchors in his calendar, small and large events spaced out every couple of months. "I always have something I'm looking toward," he said. "It keeps the days from blurring together." The trick isn't just filling your schedule, it's filling it with things that excite you enough to think about them ahead of time. Because when the future pulls you forward, the present feels fuller too. So, maybe we can't stop the birthdays from coming, but we can change how we experience the time in between them. Add novelty, break the routine, collect small adventures, notice the details, and give yourself something to look forward to. When you do that, you're not just making life feel slower, you're making it feel fuller. You're giving your brain more to hold on to, so when you look back, it's not just a blur of weeks and years. It's a mosaic of moments that mattered. Remember, it's not about squeezing more hours into the day. It's about making the hours you do have feel like they're worth savoring. So this week, try one small change: a new walking route, a meal you've never cooked, a phone call to someone you haven't spoken to in ages. See if it makes the day feel just a little longer in the best way. And if you liked this, my next video will show you one daily habit proven to make your brain feel younger. No supplements, no gimmicks, just something you can start tomorrow morning. Because you can't stop the clock, but you can make every tick feel worth it.